After Eni Aluko and the former Arsenal star had a falling out, Roy Keane made a light-hearted jab at her that left Ian Wright in stitches. In a fiery interview on the BBC Radio 4 show last month, Aluko first charged Wright with blocking opportunities for women in the women's game. The former Chelsea player, who was immediately met with a barrage of criticism, backed down from her remarks and emphasized that she had not meant to specifically single out Wright, a strong advocate for women's football's advancement. However, in his initial public remarks following the scandal, Wright urged the audience to move on, rather than accept the occasional apologies from his ITV co-pundit. In the aftermath of her remarks, which occurred during an appearance where she also asserted that her punditry career had been harmed by former Manchester City midfielder Joey Barton, whom she is suing for libel after he called her a race card player on social media in January of last year, Mail Sport later reported that Aluko's job at ITV was under investigation. After that, she took a break from hosting the Women's Football Awards. Additionally, Aluko's remarks were brought up once more on the most recent Stick to Football podcast, which is presented by Sky Bet. "That's the one thing I wouldn't do," Keane stated as the panel discussed management criticism. "I would be reluctant to criticize players because I have been there, done it, and understand how difficult it is. I find it hard because I don't do many of the women's games and stuff," Jill Scott remarked, interjecting her thoughts on the subject before Keane added a humorous quip. Because of Ian, the scathing commentator replied sternly in response to Aluko's remarks, sending Scott, Wright, Gary Neville, and Paul Scholes into a frenzy. Throughout the row, a lot of Wright's co-workers and former and current women's athletes have supported him. Among them was Steph Houghton, Wright's podcast co-host and Aluko's former teammate, who called him a superhero in a recent episode of their program Crossways, a women's football show. "Ian, I just wanted to say something that hasn't been said before. I believe I posted on Instagram. You are a superhero, and you deserve all the praise that has been showered on you this past week for what you have done for our game. I also enjoy working with you." Aluko was questioned about the existence of male commentators in the women's game, particularly Ian Wright, which sparked the controversy during her visit on BBC Radio. "I've worked with Ian for a long time, and I think he's a great broadcaster, but I think he knows how much he's doing in the women's game," she said. "He ought to know that, in my opinion. The reality is that there are only a certain number of spots available. It would be a free-for-all if broadcasters and coaches participated in the men's game with the same opportunities as in the women's. However, that isn't true. You mentioned Ian as an example, but I can't control the men's game like that." Aluko responded, "I don't know about wrong, but I think we need to be conscious and we need to make sure that women are not being blocked from having a pathway into broadcasting in the women's game," when asked if she believed Wright's coverage of women's football was improper. "It's still in its infancy and developing. I believe that men should be conscious of the fact that opportunities are limited. Men should be aware that they are participating in a sport that is expanding for women. We haven't always had these chances, so it's important to raise awareness and encourage other women to pursue this path. I'm putting this complete episode here again so folks can actually listen to everything I said with full context," she subsequently stated in a post on her Instagram account. No one was accused or attacked during this interview, unlike what clickbait media headlines claim. There are numerous instances of men participating in women's sports. One is Ian Wright. Additionally, Ian Wright is great, as I stated in the interview. Aluko later apologized to Wright when the criticism of her persisted, saying, "Lon Wright is a brilliant broadcaster and role model whose support for the women's game has been significant. I was attempting to raise a more general point in my interview with Woman's Hour this week regarding the dearth of chances for women in football, whether they be in coaching, broadcasting, or commercial settings, and the significance of establishing additional space for them to succeed both on and off the field. But I truly apologize for bringing up Lan's name during that talk. It was inappropriate. I've known and collaborated with Lon for a long time, and I've always loved and respected him." But Wright rejected her rephrasing of the remarks. In an Instagram video that was liked by a number of current Lionesses players, including Lauren Hemp, Alessia Russo, and Mary Earps, the former Arsenal striker stated, "I have to talk about this week and what's going on. I don't want to be asked about it endlessly. I must admit that I'm rather disappointed with Eni's remarks. She is aware of my assistance and public backing, as well as our prior discussions with me and my management. I've seen the apology on social media, but I want to move on even though I can't accept it. I truly don't need any more social commentary on any of this, in case anyone is watching. The problem with the women's game is that it must be for the group, not about me. We are aware that the women's game has significant systemic issues that will require everyone's assistance to resolve because of the men's 50-year ban on it. Because the game has given me so much, I constantly give back to it. In the midst of the controversy, Wright also gained ITV's support, raising more questions about Aluko's future with the network. They said in a statement that Ian's standing in the sport is beyond question. With a career spanning almost 40 years, Ian is one of the most admired and beloved football players and sporting broadcasters in the United Kingdom. He is an amazing supporter, ally, and skilled broadcaster of women's football at both the grassroots and top international levels.